Hey, I hope you're doing well. Quick thought today that's probably the most important thing you're going to hear about tennis improvement today, or maybe ever, honestly. This is just a critical, fundamental insight about getting better at the game of tennis, and it's completely either misunderstood or ignored by the vast majority of players. And let me try to unpack this for you. I briefly touched on it in a video recently, but it really deserves its own focus. And the concept is the fundamental skills of tennis. So what are the fundamentals in tennis? There's a lot of things that I would wrap into that title, but I would say the use of the kinetic chain is a huge one. What parts of your body to use in what order to be efficient and to be able to deliver good amounts of energy without hurting yourself and without having to try too hard, so on and so forth. Knowing where to stand, knowing where to aim, knowing how to watch the ball and when not to watch the ball, using a split step, using smooth and efficient, footwork. The basics, like the things that if you've been following tennis instruction online for any length of time, you know these things already. Now, listen carefully to the statement I'm about to make. This is super important. If currently, let's just say you're a beginner tennis player and you'd like to be competitive at 3.0. So here in the United States, 3.5 is the middle. Like it's the right in the center of the curve, the bell curve of how good tennis players are. 3.5 is right in the middle. There's a bunch of players that are weaker than 3.5. There's a bunch of players that are stronger than 3.5, but most are at 3.5, just as a percentage. So if you're a beginner and you want to make your way up to 3.0, what you should focus on is the fundamentals, the critical basic things that you need to do well to be a good tennis player. Let's say you're already a 3.0 and you'd like to be a 3.5 player and win and be competitive at 3.5. The things you need to focus on to make that level jump are the fundamentals. If you're currently a competitive 3.5 player and you want to be a 4.0 level player and be a winning player at 4.0, the things you need to focus on are the fundamentals. And if you want to go from 4.0 to 4.5 and be winning at 4.5, the things you need to focus on are the fundamentals. And if you want to go from 4.5 to 5.0 and win at 5.0, the things you should focus most on are the fundamentals. It doesn't matter what level you are. If you're an amateur tennis player, you have gaps in your fundamentals, the very basic things. If you're a 4.5 player, you have gaps in your fundamentals, but just not nearly as big or as many of them. If you're a 3.0 player, there's a huge difference between those levels of play. Both players need to focus on the fundamentals, but the 4.5 player has polished and mastered a huge checklist of things that the 3.0 player doesn't have yet. But they're all still fundamental things. At no point in our journey as normal amateur tennis players do we make some kind of cosmic jump from fundamentals to, okay, now we need advanced mechanics. Now we need advanced technique. Now we need advanced tactics and strategies. No, it always comes back to the fundamentals. When you lose a tennis match, it's not because of some advanced technique. It's not because of some advanced strategy. It's because you messed up the fundamentals and your opponent messed them up less than you did. I promise you, this is the truth, and you need to hear this and really absorb this, because otherwise you'll fall for the trap of figuring or assuming that the things that you know you're probably doing. Because, you're supposed to split step. So you're split stepping. You've taken a lot of lessons. You know you're supposed to, so you're probably doing it by now. Vast majority of tennis players are not doing it, even though they know they're supposed to. So you're just going to assume you're doing basics that you're actually not. And then B, you're going to ignore or forget the basics because you're assuming you're doing them. And you're going to go and spend all this time and effort and energy on advanced things that are like 10 or 12 or 100 steps further down the road than what you actually need to get better right now. You'll spend a whole lot of time invested on things that aren't even going to move the needle because you still have these flaws that are so basic. And players fall for this trap and they chase their tail around and around. It's always the fundamentals. When you miss a shot, it's always the fundamentals. When you feel stuck in your level and you want to move to the next level, it's always the fundamentals. I hope you hear me loud and clear, and I hope you really absorb this and trust it and believe it, because if you don't, you'll just be wasting a lot of time and energy on things that are way down the road from where you should actually be spending your time. Hopefully this is a helpful reminder today. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.